What would you do if you have everything? Wealth, comfort, a loving husband, but no child to call your own. For many years, Chioma cried, prayed, and hoped. But when the waiting grew too heavy and the voices of shame grew louder, she made a choice that would change her life forever. The sun set behind the big houses in Maitama, Abuja. The sky turned golden, making the city look beautiful. In one of these houses, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor lived a life many admired. They were rich and loved each other, but one thing was missing. They had no child. For 10 years, Chioma and her husband had tried everything to have a child. They prayed. They visited the best hospitals. They met doctors in Nigeria and abroad. They even tried traditional herbs and special diets. Finally, they turned to IVF treatment. The first one failed. The second failed. The third IVF was the hardest. Chioma's body swelled. Her stomach ached and she could hardly breathe. The doctors warned that her life was in danger. She spent many days in the hospital fighting for her health. When she finally got better, there was still no baby. Her husband held her hand and said, Chioma, God's time is the best. One day, He will bless us. Please don't lose hope. But hope was getting harder to hold on to. People around her made it worse. Friends smiled at her sadly. Church members whispered. Even strangers looked at her with pity. The hardest part was her mother-in-law. She had never truly approved of Chioma. And deep down, Chioma knew it. One hot afternoon, her phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made her heart sink. Mama Okafor. She took a deep breath and answered softly. Good afternoon, Mama. Good afternoon. The elderly woman replied sharply. So, is there any good news? Chioma's voice trembled. Not yet, Mama. We are still waiting on God. Still waiting? Mama's tone turned harsh. 10 years, Chioma. 10 whole years. And you still have no child. My son's name cannot end with you. Chioma's throat tightened. Mama, please. We are praying. Praying? The old woman snapped. If prayer could give children, there would be no barren women. You have brought shame into my son's home. Before Chioma could say any word, the line went dead. She sat there frozen, the phone still in her hand, her eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. The words barren woman echoed in her head like a curse. That night, she couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, her heart breaking in silence. Was she really the problem? Would God ever remember her? The next morning, her phone rang again. It was her mother. My daughter, her mother said gently. How long will this continue? Chioma sighed. Mama, I don't know what else to do. There is a way, her mother whispered. Come home. There is someone in the village who can help. Chioma's heart raised. She knew what her mother meant. Traditional solution? She asked softly. My dear, all children are gifts from God, no matter how they come. If there is help, why suffer? Chioma was troubled. She believed in God's time, but had God forgotten her? Was he ignoring her prayers? The thought of going to village scared her. That night, she packed a small bag. She told her husband she was just visiting her mother. But deep inside, she knew the truth. She was ready to do anything to have a child of her own. Chioma left Abuja before dawn, hoping to reach her mother's village by sunset. Doubt filled her mind. Was she making the right choice? After hours on the road, she felt hungry. She hadn't eaten before leaving, too anxious to think about food. She saw a young girl selling bananas by the roadside. The girl, about 10 years old, carefully walked between cars, calling out to buyers. Chioma slowed down and called the little girl selling bananas. As the girl approached, she looked at Chioma and softly said, "Mommy, please don't go. You are blessed." The word sent chill down Chioma's spine. Confused, she asked, "Do I look like your mother?" The girl only stared silently, repeating, "Please, don't go." Feeling uneasy, Choma quickly bought some bananas, paid and drove off, her heart pounding with confusion and fear. By evening, Choma reached her mother's village. Her mother stood waiting in front of their house. When Choma stepped out of the car, her mother's face lit up. "My daughter, you finally listened to me," she said, hugging her tightly. Choma sighed, "Mama, I hope this is not a waste of time." Her mother patted her back. "It won't be. The gods have not forgotten you." That night, after eating and resting, her mother spoke in a low voice. "There is a powerful woman in this village. She speaks to the river goddess. She has helped many women have children. She can help you too." Chioma's heart tightened. She had expected this, but hearing it made her nervous. "Mama, is this safe?" Her mother frowned. "What is safe, Chioma? Sitting in pain while people mock you? Do you want your husband to take another wife? You must decide. Will you trust the gods or keep suffering?" Chioma had no answer. Early the next morning, they set out. The path to the river was long, through thick bushes and wet ground. When they reached the river, mist covered the air. The water was calm and smooth like glass. An old woman stood by the edge, her eyes glowing in the dim light. "You have come," the woman said in a deep voice. "Yes," her mother answered. "She wants a child." The old woman nodded and stretched out her hand. "Then let us speak to the goddess." Chioma hesitated, but when she looked at her mother's hopeful face, she knew there was no turning back. She took a deep breath and placed her hand in the old woman's. Chioma stood by the river, her heart beating fast. The old woman, Mama Eke, held her hand firmly. She wore a white wrapper that flowed in the breeze. "The river goddess has heard your cry," Mama Eke said. "She is ready to bless you. The goddess does not give without taking. You must make a vow. The child you will have will be special. She must be dedicated to the goddess. She will live with you, but she will not be like other children." Chioma hesitated, but she wanted a baby more than anything. "I agree," she said. Mama Eke pulled out a small calabash and gave Chioma a dark paste. "Rub this inside yourself before you lie with your husband. It will bring the goddess blessing. But remember, if you break your vow, there will be consequences." Chioma took the paste, fear and hope missing in her heart. Mama Eke lifted her hands, chanting. The river rippled and the cold wind blew past Chioma. "It is done," Mama Eke said. When Chioma returned to Abuja, her husband was away on a business trip. She hid the paste and waited for the right time to use it. 2 weeks later, Chioma began to feel unwell. At first, she dismissed it as a fatigue from her recent trip, but when the nausea grew worse each day, she visited the hospital for a checkup. After a brief examination, the doctor smiled warmly. "Congratulations, Mrs. Okafor. You are 6 weeks pregnant." Chioma stared at him, stunned. "6 weeks? That is impossible," she whispered. She hadn't even used the paste from Mama Eke. Her phone rang just minutes later. It was her mother. "Mama," she said breathlessly, "the doctor says I am 6 weeks pregnant. But I haven't even used the paste yet. There was silence on the other end before her mother's calm voice came through. My daughter, never question the ways of the gods. What matters is that your womb has opened. That night, Chioma lay awake, her mind racing. This was everything she had prayed for. Yet, deep inside, unease crept through her heart. Something about this miracle didn't feel right. When Mr. Okafor returned home, Chioma could hardly hide her excitement. As they sat together for dinner, she reached for his hand and smiled. Our prayers has been answered. I'm pregnant. Mr. Okafor blinked in surprise. You are what? For a moment, he was speechless. Then he jumped up with joy and hugged her tightly. Thanking God for the miracle they had waited so long to see. That night, their home was filled with happiness and songs of praise. But later, when everyone was asleep, Chioma lay awake. Her hand rested on her belly as a small voice whispered in her heart, was this really from God or from the river goddess? Months passed and her stomach grew round. Mr. Okafor cared for her with love and excitement. Then one night, the labor pain began. He rushed her to the hospital, praying all the way. After long hours, just before dawn, a baby's cry filled the room. It's a girl, the nurse said, placing the baby in Chioma's arms. Chioma stared at her child. The baby had thick, coily hair and clenched her mother's finger tightly. Tears filled Chioma's eyes. The baby was named Amarachi. Life with baby Amarachi was peaceful. She hardly cried and always looked calm. But soon, strange dreams began to trouble Chioma. At night, she would wake up sweating, hearing whispers and seeing deep waters in her sleep. In every dream, a tall woman with glowing eyes appeared and said, you made a promise. When Amarachi turned a month old, the dreams became stronger. One night, the voice spoke clearly, bring her to me or she will return on her own. Chioma woke up in fear. She looked at her baby sleeping quietly and began to cry. For many nights, she couldn't sleep. She didn't want to take her baby to the river, but she was too afraid to ignore the warning. When Mr. Okafor traveled one weekend, Chioma made up her mind. She packed a small bag, wrapped Amarachi in a warm cloth, and traveled back to her village. Her mother met her at the gate. You did well to come, she said, leading Chioma to the river. Mama Eke stood by the water, waiting. You kept me waiting, she said coldly. Chioma's hand shook. I had no choice. Give me the child, Mama Eke said. With trembling hands, Chioma handed Amarachi over. Mama Eke lifted the baby towards the river and began to chant. The water rippled and a cold wind blew. Then a tall, dark woman rose from the water, the river goddess. Chioma fell to her knees in fear. The goddess placed her glowing hand on Amarachi's forehead. The baby's eyes opened wide, but she didn't cry. She will be great, said the goddess, but never let her be sad. Her sorrow will visit your home. And never cut her hair. It will grow on its own. If you do, you will regret it. The wind blew hard, the river splashed, and the goddess disappeared. Mama Eke gave Amarachi back to Chioma. Go home, my daughter, she said. Your child is blessed, but don't forget the rules. Chioma hugged her baby tightly. As she traveled back to Abuja, fear settled in her heart as she made a promise she would one day regret. 5 years had passed since Amarachi was born, and life in the Okafor's family was filled with joy. Their weight grew and people admired their beautiful daughter. To Chioma, Amarachi was a miracle, and she vowed to give her the best life. One morning, while cleaning the living room, Chioma suddenly felt dizzy. She gripped a chair for support. When the inertia continued, she went to the hospital. After some tests, the doctor smiled at her. Congratulations, Mrs. Okafor. You are pregnant. Chioma's heart skipped a beat. Tears filled her heart. She had longed for one child, and now she was blessed again. But the biggest surprise came during the ultrasound. It's twins, the doctor announced. Two healthy baby boys. She stared at the screen, overwhelmed. She should have been happy, but all she could think about was Amarachi. Would she still love her as much? Would Amarachi feel left out? Months later, Chioma gave birth to the twins. Mr. Okafor was overjoyed, thanking God for his blessings. The babies were healthy and Chioma was grateful. But in her heart, she knew Amarachi would always come first. As the twins grew, Chioma cared for them, ensuring they were well fed and dressed well. But it was clear Amarachi was her favorite. By the time the twins turned 3, they noticed the difference. Amarachi got new dresses and gifts, while their toys were given with little thoughts. Their mother hugged and kissed Amarachi, but they were left on their own. They did not understand why, but the feeling of being unloved was already growing in their little hearts. Amarachi grew into a beautiful girl. Her long black hair flowed like silk. People stopped to admire her whenever she passed. But it wasn't just her beauty. Amarachi was smart, confident, and kind. Her teachers loved her. Her classmates wanted to be her friend. Even strangers gave her gifts. While Amarachi enjoyed love and attention, her twin brothers, Chidi and Chuka, felt ignored. At 5 years old, they already knew that no matter what they did, their mother would never love them as much as she loved Amarachi. Chioma was not unkind to them. She fed them, clothed them, and made sure they had everything they needed. But they could see the difference in how she treated their sister. They turned to their father for comfort. Mr. Okafor saw what was happening and tried to make up for it. He spent time with them, took them on trips, and told them they were special too. But deep down, the twins longed for their mother's love. One day, something happened that changed everything. At 10 years old, Amrachi was one of the best students in her class, but one afternoon, she forgot to do her homework. Her teacher, Mrs. Williams, was not pleased. Amrachi, I'm disappointed, she said. You will get 2 strokes of cane. Amrachi's heart raised. She had never been punished before. The cane touched her palm twice. She bit her lip, trying not to cry, and quietly returned to her seat. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her heart ached with sadness she couldn't explain. The next morning, shocking news spread through the school. Mrs. Williams was dead. She didn't wake up. Students whispered in fear. When Amrachi walked into class, everyone stared. Some murmured, she flogged Amarachi yesterday. When Chioma heard the news, she pulled Amarachi close. You did nothing wrong, my love, she said. It's just a coincidence. But deep inside, a small voice whispered, what if it wasn't? Chioma pulled the thoughts away. Amarachi was a miracle, a blessing, and she would protect her no matter what. The sudden death of Mrs. Williams unsettled many, but with time, people moved on. Amarachi continued to shine, excelling in school and winning admiration. Yet something was changing in the Okafor's household. Chidi and Chuka, now sis, has grown distance from their mother. They knew Amarachi was her favorite. They no longer sought her affection, turning instead to their father, who loved them dearly. Mr. Okafor prayed for peace in his home, but another tragedy was about to strike. One evening, While Mr. Okafor was away, his mother, Mama Okafor, arrived unexpectedly. She was a strong-willed woman who had never truly approved of Chioma. Chioma, you look well, she said, scanning the house. Good evening, Mama, Chioma replied, forcing a smile. Where are my grandsons? Playing in their room. And Amarachi, Chioma beamed. Upstairs, reading. Mama Okafor frowned. You love that girl too much. Before Chioma could respond, Amarachi came running downstairs. Grandma! In her excitement, she accidentally stepped on Mama Okafor's foot. Ah! Amarachi! The old woman winced in pain. I'm sorry, Grandma, Amarachi said quickly. Mama Okafor scolded her and lightly tapped her back. It wasn't a hard hit, just a correction. But the moment her hand touched Amarachi, silence filled the room. The girl's bright expression darkened. Without a word, she turned and ran upstairs. Chioma felt a strange chill, an unexplainable fear creeping into her heart. The next morning, the house was too quiet. Chioma went to check on Mama Okafor, but found her still in bed, unmoving. Mama, she cried, checking her gently. Wake up! She called for the driver. We need to take Mama to the hospital. They rushed to the hospital, but when they arrived, the doctor shook his head. I'm sorry. She was gone before she got here. Chioma's leg gave way, and she sank into a chair. The words echoed in her mind. Mr. Okafor returned home devastated. My mother was fine. How could this happen? No one had answers. The doctors found no illness, no stroke, nothing. It was as if she had simply stopped living. Chioma couldn't ignore the thought in her mind. First, it was Mrs. Williams. Now, Mama Okafor. Both had done one thing before they died. They had both hurt Amarachi. Chioma shivered as she turned to look at her daughter, who sat quietly playing with her doll. Her beautiful face was calm, as if nothing had happened. Chioma's hands trembled. Her heart pounded. Could Amarachi be the reason for this strange death? Was her daughter dangerous? The question burned in her mind, but she dared not to say them out loud because if the answer was yes, she wasn't ready to know the truth. Mama Okafor's funeral was grand. People came from far and wide to mourn. Mr. Okafor was broken. She was fine, Chioma, he whispered. How does someone just die? Chioma had no answer, but fear gripped her heart. First, Mrs. Williams, now her mother-in-law. Both had upset Amarachi. Both had died suddenly. After the funeral, the house changed. Mr. Okafor buried himself in work. The house staff acted strangely around Amarachi, nervous, avoiding her gaze. One day, Chioma overheard the housekeeper whispering about Amarachi. Chioma confronted them. They fell silent and hurried away, but the seed of fear had already been planted in her mind. For Amarachi's 11th birthday, Chioma threw a big party. Amarachi wore a white gown, looking like a princess. Everyone admired her, but Chioma felt uneasy. During the cake cutting, a waiter accidentally spilled juice on Amarachi's dress. They all went silent. The waiter dropped on his knees. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Amarachi. Amarachi stared at him, her eyes dark and cold. Chioma quickly placed a hand on her shoulder. It's okay, my love. Amarachi blinked and nodded. The party continued, but Chioma couldn't shake the fear. The next morning, news spread. The waiter was found dead in his apartment. No cause, no struggle, just dead. Chioma's heart trembled as she dropped her phone. Mrs. Williams, Mama Okafor, now the waiter. This was no coincidence. She turned to look at Amarachi, sitting calmly with her book. Chioma's heart pounded. She had to find out the truth and decide what to do about it. Mr. Okafor returned home late and found Chioma sitting stiffly on the couch, her face pale. "What is it, Chioma?" he asked. She gripped her lap tightly. "Another person is dead. The waiter from Amarachi's birthday party." Silence filled the room. Mr. Okafor sighed. "Chioma, what are you trying to say?" "Don't you see? Everyone who hurts Amarachi dies." He stiffened. "That's just a coincidence." "No, it's not," Chioma whispered. "First, Mrs. Williams, then Mama, now this waiter. What are the chances?" Mr. Okafor wanted to argue, but deep inside, a fear he had ignored started to grow. "She's just a child," he said. Chioma swallowed. "Maybe not on purpose. But what if something else is causing this?" A chill ran down his spine. He stood abruptly. "That's enough, Chioma. She's our daughter, a blessing from God. I won't listen to you talk like she's a monster." Chioma stared at him. "I don't think she's a monster. But if we don't find out what's happening, more people might die." Mr. Okafor's face darkened. "This conversation is over." He walked away. That night, Chioma couldn't sleep. A terrifying thought haunted her. Did Amarachi know? Slowly, she got up and tiptoed to Amarachi's room. She hesitated, then opened the door. Amarachi sat on her bed, staring out the window. Chioma's stomach twisted. "Why aren't you sleeping?" "I don't feel like sleeping," Amarachi said softly. Chioma hesitated. "Do you know what happened today?" Amarachi nodded. "The waiter died." Chioma breath caught. "How did you know?" "I just knew." Ice crawled through Chioma's veins. She knelt beside her daughter. "Amarachi, do you know why people keep dying?" Amarachi whispered. "They hurt me." Chioma's body went stiff. "Did you do something to them?" she asked carefully. Amarachi shook her head. "I don't do anything. But when I get sad, bad things happen. I don't mean to, mommy. But when people make me cry, I feel something inside me and then they go away." "Are you afraid of me, mommy?" Chioma forced a smile. "No, my love. I will always love you." She pulled her daughter into a hug, hugging her tightly. But inside, her heart was breaking. She knew the truth now, and she had no idea what to do. Chioma barely slept that night. Her daughter, her sweet Amarachi, had confessed that when she gets sad, bad things happened and people died. Chioma shivered. She had to do something. But what? Telling her husband was useless. He refused to believe anything was wrong. No one would believe her. There was only one place left, the church. The next morning, as Mr. Okafor got ready for work, Chioma pressed a hand to her forehead. "I need to see Pastor Emmanuel today," she said. "I just need prayers." Mr. Okafor studied her. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No," Chioma said quickly. "I just need to pray alone." Then she went to Amarachi's room. "My dear, we are going to church to pray." Amarachi said nothing. For some reason, that scared Chioma even more. The drive to church was quiet. Amarachi sat in the back, staring out the window. When they arrived, Pastor Emmanuel was waiting. The pastor studied Amarachi for a long moment, then told them to sit. How can I help you? He asked. Chioma hesitated, then took a deep breath. Pastor, I think something is wrong with my daughter. Chioma's hands trembled. Every time someone hurts her, something bad happens. What kind of bad thing? Pastor Emmanuel asked. Chioma swallowed hard. They die. The pastor's face darkened slightly. He turned to Amarachi. Do you know what your mother is talking about? Amarachi tilted her head. Do you know why it happens? Amarachi blinked. I don't know, she said. I just feel something inside me and then they go away. The pastor stood and pulled out a bottle of anointing oil. We need to pray, he said firmly. It won't work, Amarachi said calmly. The pastor frowned. Why do you say that? Amarachi looked at him. Because it's not something you can pray away. Chioma's heart nearly stopped. The pastor exchanged a glance with her, then stepped closer to Amarachi, holding the bottle. May I pray for you? Amarachi stared at the bottle. If you want. The pastor dipped his fingers in the oil. He reached out to place his hand on Amarachi's forehead, but the moment he touched her, a force threw him backward. Chioma screamed. The hair grew thick. The light flickered. Amarachi stood in the middle of the chaos, her face blank. Pastor Emmanuel groaned, struggling to sit up. His face was pale with shock. My God, he whispered. Chioma ran to him. Pastor, are you all right? He nodded weakly, his hands trembling. He looked at Amarachi, fear in his eyes. This is not an ordinary child. The pastor swallowed hard. Sister Chioma, he said, his voice deadly serious. This child is carrying something, something not of this world. Tears stung Chioma's eyes. What do I do? She whispered. The pastor shook his head. I don't know. He turned back to Amarachi, who stood still, watching them. This is beyond me, he said. Chioma's heart sank. She had come to church for help. Instead, she had found more fear, and now she was more lost than ever. The drive home was silent. Chioma gripped the steering wheel, her hands shaking. Pastor Emmanuel had been thrown across the room just by touching Amarachi. And Amarachi, she had stood there, calm, like nothing happened. Chioma glanced at her daughter through the mirror. Amarachi looked like a normal child, but Chioma knew better. Something was inside her, something even a pastor couldn't remove. When they got home, Mr. Okafor was in the living room. How was church? He asked. Fine, Chioma lied. He watched her closely. Are you okay? Just tired, she said quickly. That night, Chioma couldn't sleep. She paced the room, her mind racing. What could she do? She couldn't tell her husband. The church couldn't help. Tears filled her eyes. Was Amarachi beyond saving? A terrible thought entered her mind. What if the only way to stop this was to get rid of her? She gasped, horrified. No, Amarachi was a miracle. She loved her, but if she truly loved her, she had to do whatever it takes to help her. The next morning, Chioma packed a small bag. She told her husband she was visiting her mother. He didn't question it. Before leaving, she turned to Amarachi, who was brushing her long hair. Mommy is going on a short trip, Chioma said. I'll be back soon. Amarachi looked up and smiled. Okay, mommy. Chioma kissed her forehead, but Amarachi grabbed her hand. Be careful, mommy, she whispered. Chioma froze. A chill ran down her spine. Then Amarachi let go. Chioma forced a smile. I will, my love. She turned and walked out of the house. her heart pounding. She had to find the truth. If she didn't, she might not survive what was coming next. Chioma drove fast to her mother's village. The road felt strange, like it held secrets she wasn't ready to hear. She had to find Mama Ike. She needed to know what really happened the day she asked the river goddess for a child. Something told her that all the strange events, every death, every eerie moment were connected to that day. By the time she reached the village, the sun was setting. She parked in front of her mother's house and stepped out. Her mother was outside peeling cassava. She looked up surprised. Chioma, you didn't say you were coming. What's wrong? Chioma forced a smile. Mama, I need to see Mama Ike. Something is wrong with Amarachi. Her mother took a deep breath. Chioma, you shouldn't have come back. Chioma's throat tightened. Mama, tell me the truth. What did we really do that day at the river? Her mother looked troubled. She didn't tell you everything. The river goddess gave you a child, but not an ordinary one. Amarachi was chosen before birth. She does not belong fully to this world. She carries something ancient inside her, something no prayer can remove. Tears filled Chioma's eyes. Mama, what have I done? But Chioma needed answers. She left and walked through the outskirts of the village where Mama Ike lived. The old woman's hut looked the same, small, covered in palm leaves, mist surrounding it. Chioma knocked. The door cracked open. Mama Ike's eyes gleamed in the dim light. You have come, she said. Chioma stepped inside. I need answers. Mama Ike nodded. You have seen the truth. Chioma face clenched. What is Amarachi? The old woman gaze darkened. She is a child of two worlds. The goddess gave her to you, but she is not fully yours. Chioma's heart pounded. Then, how do I stop this? Mama Eke raised a hand silencing her. There is no stopping it. Amarachi is what she is meant to be. Tears streamed down Chioma's face. No, there must be a way. Mama Eke signed. There is only one way. You must return her to the river. To the goddess. Chioma felt sick. No, there has to be another way. There is none, Mama Eke said. The balance is shifting. If you do not return her, more people will die. And soon, the goddess will come for her herself. Chioma shook violently. She couldn't do it. Amarachi was her child. A miracle. But deep down, she knew Mama Eke was right. She had a choice to make. A choice that would save her family or destroy it forever. Chioma drove back to Abuja in silence. Fear, anger and sorrow filled her heart. When Chioma entered the house, she knew something was wrong. The air was heavy, filled with silence. Something unseen was watching. Her heart pounded as she rushed upstairs. She pushed open Amarachi's bedroom door and froze. Amarachi sat on her bed, staring at the wall, her back stiff. Her long hair fell over her shoulders. Chioma swallowed. My love. Slowly, Amarachi turned. Her once warm eyes were now dark and empty. A shiver ran through Chioma. Then Amarachi smiled. But it wasn't the smile of a child. It was something else. Something terrifying. Mommy, where did you go? Chioma hesitated. I went to see Grandma. Amarachi blinked as if she knew the truth. You met her, didn't you? Chioma breath inched. Who? Amarachi gaze darkened. The goddess. Chioma's heart pounded. Tears welled in Chioma's eyes. Amarachi turned back to the wall. Her voice was calm. Too calm. She's coming, mommy. Chioma's blood ran cold. That night, the nightmare began. Mr. Okafor always believed God would protect his family, but something dark had entered his home. In his dream, he saw deep water. A woman stood in the river. Her skin was black as night. Her eyes glowed like fire. She called his name, Jidolfo. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The water rose, pulling him under. He gazed, struggled, but the current was too strong. Then a voice, Daddy! He turned. Amarachi stood on the water, untouched by the waves. Her long hair floated around her. You can't stop her, Daddy. Mr. Okafor woke up screaming. Chioma woke up. Jide, what is it? Mr. Okafor sat up, drenched in sweat. He turned to Chioma, fear in his eyes. A woman stood in the river. His skin was black as night. Chioma trembled. The goddess. Chioma sank onto the bed, tears falling. She couldn't hide the truth anymore. Through sobs, she told him everything. The visit to Mama Ike, the truth about Amarachi's bed, the goddess' demand to return her. Silence filled the room. Mr. Okafor said, his face pale. Then slowly, he got out of bed. Chioma's throat tightened. I was trying to protect her. His hands clenched. You knew something was wrong and you didn't tell me. Tears streamed down Chioma's face. I thought I could fix it. Mr. Okafor turned away. His body shook. We should have never gone outside of God for help. Chioma sobbed. What do we do? Mr. Okafor exhaled, his face filled with helplessness. The house was quiet, but something felt wrong. Since Chioma told her husband the truth, things had changed. Mr. Okafor hardly spoke to her. He stayed in his study, reading his Bible and praying. Chioma understood. She had hidden the truth for too long. Now, the goddess was coming for Amarachi. They had to decide, give her up or fight for her. Amarachi barely spoke. She sat by the window staring outside. Chidi and Chuka avoided her. They were afraid of their own sister. That night, Chioma woke up at a strange sound. It started as a whisper, then grew louder. Many voices filled the room. She sat up, sweating. Amarachi stood in the doorway. Her long hair hung over her shoulders, her nice gown flowing. Her dark eyes stared straight at Chioma. Mommy, Amarachi whispered. She's here. A strong wind blasted through the room, shaking the windows and knocking out a lamp. Chioma screamed. Mr. Okafor woke up. What's happening? Then they felt it, a deep chilling presence, something not human. A powerful voice filled the house. I have come for what is mine. Chioma and her husband held onto each other, frozen in fear. Mr. Okafor grabbed his Bible. In the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. A loud crack echoed. The wall trembled. The light flickered. Amarachi stood still, untouched. I don't want to go, she whispered. The presence grew angrier. The wall shook harder. Chioma fell on her knees, tears streaming down her face. She grabbed Amarachi's hands. Please, my love. For the first time, she saw fear in Amarachi's eyes. Real fear. Chioma's heart ached. Amarachi was just a child, trapped in something bigger than her. You are mine, Chioma said firmly. I don't care what the goddess say. You are my daughter. You belong to Jesus. The voice roared. She belongs to me. The roof cracked. The floor shook. It felt like the house would be torn apart. Then something changed. The moment Chioma claimed Amarachi belonged to Jesus, the dark presence weakened. The air grew lighter. Mr. Okafor's prayer grew stronger. The goddess hesitated. Chioma held Amarachi tighter. You cannot have her, she screamed. A final gust of wind blasted through the house. Then silence. The presence vanished. Chioma gasped. Amarachi collapsed into her hands. Mr. Okafor sank to his knees, shaking. They had won. The goddess was gone, and Amarachi was still theirs. Days passed. The house felt normal again. No more whispers. Amarachi changed. She smiled. She laughed with her brothers. She was no longer distant. The goddess had lost. Chioma prayed she would never return. For now, she had Amarachi, and that was all that mattered. Days passed, and life in the Okafor house slowly returned to normal. Amarachi was different now. She played, laughed and talked more with her brothers. The strange feeling around her was gone. No more whispers, no more shadows, no more fear. It seems like the goddess had let go, but Chioma still felt something watching. Mr. Okafor had changed too. His faith was stronger. He prayed more and stayed closer to his family. The distance between him and Chioma was fading. They were a team again. Chidi and Chuka were still scared of Amarachi at first, but as time passed, they saw she was just their sister. The fear disappeared, and they felt like a family again. Yet, deep inside, Chioma knew this was not the end. One night, as Chioma tackled Amarachi into bed, she ran her fingers through her daughter's hair. It was still too perfect, too unnatural. She ignored the thought. Good night, my love. Amarachi smiled softly. Good night, mommy. Chioma kissed her forehead and turned off the light. As she stepped out of the room, she held it, a voice, soft, faint, ancient. This is not over, Chioma. Chioma froze. Her heart pounded. She turned back, but Amarachi was fast asleep. The voice had not come from her. It had come from somewhere else, somewhere far, somewhere deep. Chioma's hands trembled. She knew the truth. The goddess was not gone. One day she would return. The battle was not over. It has only just begun. Lessons from the story. This story teaches us that the most dangerous moment in a person's life is not when God is silent, but when he had already answered and we cannot see it. Chioma's womb was already opened. Heaven had already written her name among mothers. She was carrying the very miracle she cried for, yet she didn't know. And because she could not see, she rushed to the wrong altar. She went seeking help from darkness when light had already blessed her. That is the tragedy of impatience. That is the cause of doubt. How many destinies had been destroyed not because God refused to answer, but because we refuse to trust his timing? How many tears have been wasted not because the blessing was denied, but because we ran ahead of it and fell into the enemy's trap? This story screams a warning to every heart listening. Delay is not denial. Waiting is not wasting. When God hides his work, it is because he is perfecting it. But if you let shame, mockery and fear push you to the wrong place, you may receive what looks like a miracle, but carries death in its shadow. Sometimes the test of faith is not in prayer, but in patience. Sometimes the battle is not against the devil, but against our own desperation. And whoever loses that battle may end up turning a blessing into a curse. So I say to you today, wait on God. Trust him even when the road is long, even when the mockers laugh, even when your heart is breaking, because the hand of God may be slow, but it is sure. And when he finally delivers, his blessings will never have sorrow. Thank you so much, my wonderful family, for staying with me to the very end of this story. Shama's journey reminds us all that impatience can destroy blessings already on the way, and that trusting God's timing is the greatest art of faith. If the story touched you, don't just live quietly. Be part of this great family of wisdom and truths. Click the subscribe button right now and make sure you turn on the notification bell so you will always be the first to receive our life-changing stories. Share this with someone you love because you never know whose life might be saved by a single message. Until next time, stay blessed, stay patient, And remember, God's plans are never late. I love you all. God bless you.